Oromo Voice Radio English program. Oromo Voice Radio is broadcasting to Oromia at 16-meter band or 17,850 kilohertz or on oromovoice.org website. OVR broadcasts Oromia Insight program every Monday for 15 minutes at 7:15 p.m. Oromia local time. Welcome to Oromia Insight program.
Welcome to Oromia Insight. My name is Ali Galato. This is part 2 interview with Professor Muhammad Hassan about the Oromo and the Christian Kingdom of Ethiopia book.
You find Galan in the Borana in Kenya as Galantu. You find Galan among the Harar, in Hararge, among the Oromo, in Wallo, in Arsi, in Bale, in almost every region of the country you find Galan. You find the same thing with Yaya, with Liban, with Lalo, with Waj, with Warkalu, with Raya, with Jimma. These were all Oromo clan names that were mentioned in the 4th century, in the around 1300, shortly after, in the Christian chroniclers. And the historians who wrote about this period simply ignored this aspect. And I clearly try to show with evidence from the Christian sources, Muslim sources, the Oromo presence in the region. The 3rd chapter deals with various theories about Oromo origin. Basically, I showed how almost every theory is fallacious, is not accurate. It was based in incorrect reading and basically using Oromo traditions from every region, from Kenya, from different regions of Oromia. Every Oromo clan claims that they originated within Ethiopia, never outside, basically. And what the chapter really clearly establishes is, on the one hand, their presence within the Christian kingdom, which included the region from what is today Arsi, small areas of Bale, Western Hararge, and then Wallo and Gondar and so on. Their presence, at least in southern Wallo, in Shawa, in Western Hararge, and in Arsi, in Bale, in Sidamo areas, showing that aspect. And the 4th and the 5th chapter essentially deals with the warfare between the Christians and the Oromo. That there were warfare for a long time, there is absolutely no doubt. In war, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And there were times when the Oromo lost, and there were many times when the Oromo were victorious. And in those days, the Oromo definitely were formidable warriors. They were feared. They were greatly respected. And of course, sometimes when people are defeated, the table will be turned. And after 1880s, when the entire Oromo population were conquered by Emperor Menelik, the fate of the Oromo basically changed. But before the 19th century, the Oromos were basically formidable warriors. And what the 2 chapters clearly shows is that aspect, especially in terms of cavalry warfare using horses. Chapter 6 is devoted to the impact of Abba Bahare, the fellow I mentioned earlier. He wrote not only the 12-page manuscript that I mentioned earlier, he also, recently they found out a number of other works he produced. Some of the prayer he marshaled against the Oromo. Basically, Abba Bahare was victimized by the Oromo, and he was producing ideas for inspiring the Christian leadership to fight against the Oromo. Basically, what he was trying to say is to understand the strength of the Oromo society, the source of the weakness of the Christian societies, and he was impressing upon the Christian leadership to turn their weakness into their strength, capitalize on the Oromo weaknesses, and basically his manuscript inspired Emperor Zadingil, who ruled from 1603 to 1605, as well as Emperor Ieyasu, who ruled from 1682 to 1706, where the book basically stops, basically conducting a spirited warfare against the Oromo, but they were never able to turn the tide against the Oromo. Especially what chapter 6 really shows is the impact of this manuscript and other works, his battle of ideas against the Oromo, so much so that even in the 21st century, those who hate the Oromo, those who fear about Oromo potential, those who fear that the Oromo are a large scattered group of people who are not well organized, if they achieve political consciousness and if they develop formidable organization, they will become once again mighty force. Those who fear that prospect definitely still marshal the works of Abba Bahare just to depict the Oromo as newcomers to Ethiopia, as invaders, as all kinds of things, and it was basically to show that aspect. Chapter 7 deals with one Christian prince by the name of Susuinios, who lived among the Oromo, learned Oromo language, Oromo way of life. He was adopted as a son of an Oromo. He became part of the Oromo society, married an Oromo woman, and then he learned the act of Oromo warfare, and he used the Oromo military might for becoming the emperor of the Christian kingdom. He remained the emperor of the Christian kingdom basically from 1607 all the way to 1632. He used the Oromo might, and he also started settling a large number of the friendly Oromo groups in Gojam, in Begamidir, in Lasta, in a number of areas, coming to power with Oromo support. Basically, this king, Susuinios, was really able to divide the Oromo among themselves. Basically, those who supported him, and then he started waging considerable battle against other Oromos. What the chapter really shows, clearly shows is unless the Oromo discover, understand their own interests, they could easily be used and abused by others. And this is still happening in Oromia today. And in the name of governing Oromia today, it is the TPLF basically uses Oromos for the purpose of displacing our population, killing, imprisoning, confiscating their properties, driving them from their home into exile. Essentially, they are using the tricks Susuinios discovered in the 17th century. Unless our people learn from this sad aspect, these mistakes will simply basically go on. And the Oromo should never be tools for destroying themselves and for destroying their own future. And what the chapter clearly shows is that aspect. And the final chapter basically deals with the Oromo Christianization, the Oromos who settled in Begamidir, in Gojam, in Lasta, in the region of Wallo, basically accepted Christianity. And then the breakdown of Oromo social organization, their abandoning of the Gada system, their abandoning of traditional Oromo religion based on Kalu, on Abamuda, the one I mentioned earlier. Essentially what it really shows is the remarkable change, the transformation that the Oromo who settled in the northern region underwent. And the book has also the final epilogue, basically, which really sums up the main argument of the book, bringing the story actually all the way to the time of Theodros. And what the final part of the book clearly shows is that the Oromos who settled in Gojam actually established two ruling families. They were Christianized, Amarized, and then they established the two ruling families in Gojam. And in Wallo, the Oromos who settled in Wallo established 6 separate states. I don't need to mention all their names, but 2 of them were really very powerful, and they challenged the Christian state all the way up to the time of Emperor Theodorus, who ruled from around 1855 to 1867. Basically, Emperor Theodorus conducted punishing raids against the Muslim states in Wallo, systematically destroying them, destroying their power base, destroying their, Islamic education, mosques, almost every aspect. And his policy of destroying Oromo leadership was taken up by Emperor Johannes, who ruled from 1872 to 1889, and then Emperor Menelik, who replaced him, who basically conquered all the Oromo population and transformed the Oromo into subjugated people without any right, land, basically the Oromos who were once proud, powerful people were really transformed into most humiliated, most subjugated, third-class population who did not have land, right, and basically that tradition still continues in Ethiopia. Now look, today our people are removed from their land. Are the Tigrayans removed from their land? Are the Amaras removed from their land? Basically, it is the Oromos and then other minorities in the southern area who are removed from their land, which really meant the policy of dispossessing the Oromo, exposing them to poverty, exploitation that was started by Emperor Menelik and then followed by others is still continued today under the so-called Federal Republic of Ethiopia. And Ethiopia is federal only in name, and the Oromo people are really as oppressed today as they were under previous under previous regimes.
A summary about the books. In that book, I found something really interesting. How in 16th century Central and South Ethiopia, Oromo society was able to absorb and assimilate Cushitic and the Semitic language speakers and Oromanize them through the open democratic egalitarian Gada system, while in northern Ethiopia, the Oromos themselves were absorbed into Christian Amhara society.
Ali, this is an excellent question. This is a long story. I'll simply make it as short as probably digestible sweet. It is based on the Gada system. I didn't mention that aspect. What really truly transformed the Oromo into formidable population in the Horn of Africa is really the Gada system, an open political system in which different sectors of the population participate. Gada mobilized people, and once the Oromo arrive in one area, the people in the area, those who were involved or those who were captured on the battlefield, basically were adopted into an Oromo clan structure, into Oromo Gosas. They were assimilated, and they became part of the Oromo population because the Oromos were larger in number. In the north, the Oromos settled. Remember, it was a relatively small number of groups of Oromos who settled among the Christian, the larger Christian population. Usually, once migrants come, the people who arrive there, if they are small in number and then they settle among larger groups, generally people tend to accept the language of the dominant group, the culture, the custom, and in the process their identity will be absorbed in those populations. Because in the south, the Oromo population were large and the Gada system was very effective all the way up to 1900 when Emperor Menelik legally actually stopped it, abolished it. The Gada system was very effective in the south. It had incredible capacity of mobilizing people,